Welcome back to Paleo Maker MD. This is Optimus 111B. Really nice Swedish stove. It's a large stove, much bigger than the 8R, which we will do a video on as well. And I purchased this one off eBay. I think I've spent about $148 with shipping, which is a very, very good price for these stoves. So we're going to do what we've been doing recently, which is taking them apart, cleaning them up real good, changing anything that needs to be changed, and getting them back working well. Start by taking off the pot supports. Here's the flame spreader and then the flame protector wind guard, which is a very nice feature of this model. Another difference between this and the 8R is that this one, the fuel tank is actually held in by these screws, which is really nice. Both these screws are what appears to be cold blued or hot blued, probably hot blued, and we ruined that finish, so we'll put it back on there later on. Get our heat shield off. This is just a nice little chromed piece that, at least I think it's chromed, maybe it's just nickel plated, I can't tell. We're not going to do anything with the box. We're not going to do anything with the painted box. I've got a new sandblaster to put together and get rolling. I have to buy a new compressor. Once we do that, I'll get that nice and tidy as well. Got the fuel out of our tank, and now we'll just take off very simply the spirit cup off the bottom. Just taking a look at it, learning my way around this stove a little bit. Be real careful when you're working on these. These are all soft metals, so be super careful with threads and with bolts and stuff like that, and nuts. Make sure you spill plenty of fuel like I do. It comes off very easily, and you'll see inside here is a very long screen, similar to screens on Coleman's that are much smaller, but this is a nice long screen that looks perfect, which is good because it is very hard to get a lot of parts for these stoves. Finally getting the majority of the rest of the gas out of there. No better tool to get the nozzle off than the tool that comes with your stove. So just crack it loose, just like that, and it'll screw off very easily. This particular nozzle, like many, is very dirty, pretty clogged up with residue, and we'll get that cleaned up good. This is the pump assembly. Very different than standard Coleman. And the tool used to get the check valve out is different as well. You can get this very inexpensively on eBay. I would recommend you get one. And it makes taking the check valve out super easy and pretty safe. And I'll tell you guys that this check valve, to me, looks brand new. It doesn't even look like it's been used, basically. I know that when I purchased this stove, it had a lot of spare parts, an entire spare parts kit. So I'm guessing maybe that's one of the things that they changed. Getting the screw off the bottom here of the pump. And the entire pump leather comes off in one assembly. You can take that assembly apart. I chose not to. I chose simply to soak it in 3-in-1 oil for probably 8 hours. This is pretty dirty. We'll just pull this right off. Just taking a look at everything and making sure that everything looks good. And it does. It's just dirty. Here's our screen. Sometimes people will say you should pull it apart and clean it real good. Mine's pretty clean. I'm just going to soak everything in vinegar, which is my kind of treatment of choice. And once it's soaked in vinegar for really 24 hours, it gets a lot of rust off. It also gets the soot off. I'll take the nozzle and clean it out with carb cleaner. As it says here, 24 hours of vinegar. And then I took the screws and the windscreen and I hot glued them off camera to give them a nice finish. Here's what we got afterwards. I bent that one into shape a little bit better. Looks much, much nicer. Not perfect, and that's not what I'm going for. This isn't a like full restoration, again, because I'm not even touching the paint. I just want this to be clean and function as well as possible. My hot blue came out okay, not perfect. So we'll start putting it back together by getting our screen back into the burner assembly, just like that. As always, guys, be super careful not to cross-thread anything with these soft metals. You can see I did not do anything to the gas tank. I have a new buffer on the way, and I'll be able to buff these things to a much higher shine if I want to, but I didn't do any of that for this. Now, there's supposed to be a little rubber washer there on the check valve, so pull one out of my spare parts kit, which is super handy. It's got lots of stuff in it, and that's the way it's supposed to be. In my understanding, I've looked at a lot of parts diagrams of these stoves, and from what I can see, there was a washer there. Certainly not going to hurt anything, and as long as you're careful here and you seat it nice, and this is where having the tool is imperative because you have a very good grip on it and you're not going to have any stripping. So we'll put together our pump assembly. Again, this whole thing has been soaking in oil for about 12 hours. One thing that's very important, and as long as you don't over tighten this, you really can't, but you need movement. You'll see here that I demonstrate this has movement, and that's what allows the pump to work. It's not like the Coleman's where you really want to tighten that up and get it nice and tight. You need movement on these Swedish stoves in the pump assembly like that. And it works super well. Just screw on the spirit cup. Not much thread on the bottom of this, doesn't take much. And then our nozzle goes on. Much easier to do now than when you get a little bit more involved in the reassembly. You want to do it when it's outside of the tin. Just snug it up. So there's always one thing I do wrong when I reassemble stoves. It's always something different. You might catch what I do wrong here. We have to go back and fix it. So we're putting the heat shield on. And if you look there, I'm not really giving myself any room to pump, but nonetheless, we'll get back to that. The little tool came out super nice, and we're putting back on the pot supports. I push them all the way in. You actually want them out just a little bit or the stove doesn't close super well. So I pushed them in and then ended up pulling them out probably about a 1/4 inch or just a little bit more, and that allowed the stove to close really well. There's our cleaned up and blued windscreen, which still has oil all over it, and we're going to smell that and see that here in a little bit. At this point is when I figure out that looks good. Let me add some fuel and get this thing lit up. Just showing you guys again, this was freshly changed by whoever owned this before, so I did not touch it. It's brand new. And this is where I said, oh, can't do it. So there, we flipped it around, and now you can see that I put it the right way, and you've got that little recess in for the tank, which allows you to actually pump it. Now there's a hole on top here, a little different than some of the other stoves. That hole is perfect because you can actually shoot your denatured alcohol straight through there, and it goes straight into the spirit cup underneath. We'll get it lit, and I give it about 5 pumps here, not a lot, just to build a little bit of pressure, and then I let it burn. You want to let it really, really burn completely out. It started to sputter a little bit, so I just put this in there and just made sure it was closed. I was just kind of double checking, and it was, but just making sure. And now you can start to see some of that smoke from the from the oil. I didn't really think about that. You need to burn that oil off. And I took it outside, burned all the oil off, brought it back in, and here we go. Looks perfect. You can see a little bit of green here and there. When I first got this, it was all green, and that was just from cleaners. And now you can see a lot of orange coming through, which is just from the impurities from cleaning it. Everything inside of that little screen that's probably left, old vinegar, whatever it might be. It doesn't allow the stove to burn just the way it should. So I took it outside, I let it burn, or I let it burn for about 5 minutes, and it really started to clear up. Brought it back inside. I'll show you guys. Really nice blue flame. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Got several more to come. If you like it, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to Paleo Maker MD. Guys, I really enjoy these videos. Stay tuned, and we're going to keep on restoring some stoves and making things work just the way they should. Thanks for watching.